Hello, everyone. My name is Jonathan Jackson. You may also know me as JJ. And today, Share the Wealth session, I'm going to take you through ServiceNow Guided Tours. So just to go over the little bit of agenda, I'm just going to describe what guided tours are, how to activate them, show a demo, and then actually live creating a guided tour, and then take any Q&A that anyone might have. So ServiceNow Guided Tours are basically on-screen live tours or tutorials of the ServiceNow platform. And it is completely customizable within your instance. And you can have multiple tours for different areas of the platform. Some of the ideas of what it can be used for, it can be used for user onboarding to any new features that you might be introducing to your end users. Say, for example, you're starting up the service portal for the first time. So you could put a guided tour on the service portal to just kind of show your users around the service portal and let them get familiar. That's one example that I'll actually show you here in a little bit. It can be restricted by role. So you can have different tours of the platform based on the user's role. So maybe you've got, fulfillers can have a different view of either the service portal or even the standard UI now in ServiceNow. And they can be used in prod and sub-prod instances depending on your need. One example where you may use it in a sub-prod instance is if you're giving a guided tour for your fulfillers on, say, for example, how to create a new incident. It's going to be one that I'm going to show you here in the demo as well. To activate within the platform, any instance that was originally created on Jakarta or later, the guided tour is enabled by default. If you happen to be on an instance that was originally created pre-Jakarta, you will need to activate via the plugins module. And there are 3 system properties that you may need to tweak depending on what types of tours you want to have available. The 3 of them I have listed here. The standard UI, this would allow tours on the standard UI. SP would allow the creation of tours within portals. And then there's also a custom UI, which would allow custom UI tours. Some things to consider as you are creating your guided tour. Think about the audience for your tour. Are they seeing the same view that you're seeing while you create the tour? And do they see the same fields? Or are there maybe some ACLs that might be in place that you need to work around? Also, are there any conditional widgets or menu items? As an example, on the portal, my approvals might not show depending on whether the user has approvals or not. And this is very important because tours will fail if a user gets to an element within their tour that they're not able to see. And in the tour configuration, there is an option called skippable, which will basically ignore the fact that that element's not available and will skip on and allow the user to continue on. So I'm going to go into a demo. So I'm going to give 2 perspectives. The first one's going to be the portal view, which might be something like an introduction to the portal for your end users. And then I'm going to go into the standard UI and show something that might be used for fulfiller training. All right, so I've got my instance here. I'm going to go ahead and impersonate our friend Able Tutor. And I have a guided tour configured on the service portal. And I've actually got it starting automatically. So you can see here we've got a call out, just giving a description. Hey, the service catalog is a listing of items and services that you request from IT. And the user can click next, and it will go to the next area of the platform that you're trying to show. So here I've got showing a knowledge base and just kind of calling out the different areas of the platform, getting help. And we can customize the message that shows in here. It's very simple to do. Community. So user will just continue to click next throughout, and you can see I've changed how the call out appears on this particular item. It's showing above the item where the previous ones were showing below. That's also configurable once we get in and show that. And then finally, when it concludes, you can give a conclusion message. So just something very simple here. Thank you for taking a tour of the service portal. And then that will complete. And this particular tour was set to auto start. So if I refresh the page, we'll actually see that it won't auto start anymore for Able. There's actually a table within the platform that keeps track of each tour and each user and whether or not they've already seen the auto launch. But if a user ever wants to view a tour again, for example, here in the service portal, there's the tours menu item. So Able can go in here and click if he happens to want to watch that again. I'm not sure why the introduction didn't come up the first time, but we do have the ability to put an introduction here as well. And so Able can go ahead and continue that particular tour. And if any time he wants to exit out, he just needs to click the X on one of the items and the tour will stop and he'll get back to his portal. So now I'm going to impersonate a fulfiller. I've created a tour within the incident module to kind of give a idea and kind of a tutorial on how to create an incident. So when I go here and I click create a new incident, the tour should start. So again, we can give an introduction. So here I've just included the basic ITIL language of what an incident is. And we can click begin tour. And so we can select each field in our tour, or as many fields as we want, or as few as we want, to kind of give a call out and what the purpose of this particular field is doing. So on this one, I'll click next to continue on. But here we can actually give instructions. So here I say the caller field captures the user who has reported the incident or the user who is experiencing the incident, type the name able tutor into the field. And so once I do that, there's an on change rule in this particular example where as soon as I change the value in that field, it continues on to the next call out. So here I've just identified that, hey, there's a field here. This asterisk means that this field is required. Click next. And again, I've got another on change. So we're going to go ahead and type a brief short description. And then when I hit tab or leave the field, the on change action calls and the tour moves on. So here we see that the call out was a little off until I scroll down. So giving more information about the particular fields. Click next, goes to the next item. Here it's asking for us to type in a description. And then once we're ready to submit the incident, we're going to hit submit. So it's a nice way. This would be something that would be used maybe in a sub-prod instance. We can see the tour was abandoned because I saved it instead of actually closing out the final call out, but that's okay. So this, like I said, is an example of something that you might use in a sub-prod instance for fulfillers to let them kind of get familiar with the incident module or any other modules in the system to learn how to submit incidents. Any questions so far before I go into the demo on actually creating a guided tour?
Hi, this is Diane. I have one question. So I know that tours can be set to automatically display and start for a user or not. So they have the option for the tours. Do you know if there's a property where you can set it to automatically start to a user just the very first time? So we kind of force them to go through that tour. And then once they go through that one time, then it just goes back to there. You can manually choose to go through it again.
Yeah, so if we do force a tour, the system does capture that I completed a tour in a table in the system. So if the user goes back to, say, the portal where they've already seen the tour, if they've gone through it to completion, they will not see it again.
Oh, they will. Okay.
Yep. There's no way to force a user, though, to fully view every step within a tour. Let me show you here. I'll go back to my ITIL user since Abel's already completed the tour. So now we've got ITIL user that's viewing the portal. So as I click all the way through, if I refresh the page, the tour is not going to launch.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And then along those lines, I'll show if pull up another user, I'll pull up Abraham Lincoln here. So when Abraham navigates to the service portal, he's going to get the auto launch for the particular tour. But if any time he ever clicks the X to exit out, he's going to be presented with an option to stop the guided tour and do you want to stop this tour from auto launching again? So Abraham can click no and he'll see it again the next time he goes into the portal, or he can click yes. Even though he didn't watch the entire tour, he can say, hey, I don't want to see this, and it won't present it to him automatically the next time he visits the portal. All right, so I have another instance here where we're going to show how to create a tour. So once you have the Guided Tour Designer plugin enabled, if you need it enabled, have in your application launcher a Guided Tour Designer. And here we can see there are some out-of-box guided tours that have already been created. A lot for performance analytics have been created, but not really anything for portal. So I'm going to create a tour. Here we give our tour a name, so I'll just call it Portal Tour. Tour type, this is where you can select whether you're in the standard UI, the service portal, or a custom UI. So this, I'm going to select service portal. And then we'll select which portal we want it to trigger on. And you can see there's multiples in here depending on which portals are active on the particular instance. So I'll select service portal, and then we'll select the starting page, which is going to be the service portal index. Here we can see we can assign this tour by role. So if a user has a particular role and they navigate to that page, they'll be able to see the tour. This one, I'm just going to leave it on all. And then I'm going to click create tour. So the system opens up, kind of a preview of what the guided tour is going to look like. And we see our portal here. So over here, we see our portal steps. So we can click on create an introduction. And we're going to put some welcoming text. Welcome to the portal. We'll click save. And here is where we can add our callouts. So what we have to do is we have to drag this call out over onto the main part of the screen. You can see it basically uses any div elements that are within the portal on where it's going to be placed. So it's really kind of personal preference. You can put it right on the title of something, or you can use the larger expanded section. Then here we can see we've got 3 options on where we want the call out to appear. I think because this one's so far left of the screen, left is grayed out, so we can't put a call out to the left, but we can put it to the right, we can put it above, we can put it below. And then we've got a trigger action. So how we want to continue moving on through the tour, we can do it on any click, we can do it on mouse over, we can do it on right click, or we can do it on the next button. Skippable. One of the things I mentioned in the earlier presentation is that if a user ever is taking a tour and there's a call out on an element that user is not seeing at that particular time, the tour is going to fail. If we click the skippable option, the tour will not fail. And I'll show that in an example here and in a little bit with the approvals menu item. So it's kind of always a good idea, I think, to use skippable. I've not really found any cons to using it, but there is definitely cons to not using it. If for some reason the user doesn't have the particular element showing on their page, the tour would fail. So I think it's a good idea to go ahead and check that checkbox. So basically we just continue placing our callouts on the page. I'll make that one. And then we see left as an option here. I think since it's further in on the page, we can put it to the left. If we ever want to reorder, we just need to drag our tour steps. If we ever want to edit, we just need to click the pencil icon on that item and edit any text. And then if we want to remove it, we just click the delete step. I'm not going to go through everything. I think you probably get the idea that you can create as many as you want. You can put callouts up here in the menu. You can put them in the search box to say, hey, here's a search box. And then finally, we can create a conclusion. And we can preview it before we actually publish it, where we can see our work. You can see everything we just created shows up where we told it to, and it completes. So once we're in a final state where we want to publish it, just hit publish and confirm it. And now it's published. Publishing does not set the auto start. We have to go back into our menu to configure AutoLaunch. We know we're in the service portal. I've actually got a few in here. The top one is the one that I just created, and I just need to flip on the AutoLaunch. So that is what triggers the AutoLaunch. I mentioned earlier that there's a table in the platform, sys_guided_tour_user_overrides. This table, we can see there's nothing in here right now, but it would list the tour, the user, and then whether or not the AutoLaunch should be disabled. So if I go ahead and impersonate Able again, tour should start. And then we can take a look at that table on the overrides, and Able's name should be in that table now with the override flag set to true. So the portal tour, Able, and then the disable AutoLaunch. So now when Able goes back, it won't start automatically, but it's still available for him in the tours menu option. So the second demo that I showed you was on the incident table, a new tour, we'll call it the incident tour. and we're going to do it on the standard UI, and we're going to start it on the incident form. This is one that it might be good to specify by roles, just because I don't know how all the roles are set up in this instance. I'm just going to leave it as all for now. But we see it's the same basic steps as we saw on the portal. We have the introduction, and we have callouts, and we can put it at the actual field, call it out to the right. On this one, we can only do right or below. Very similar triggers, next step, but we also have any key press. We have it on change, on key click, or enter key. For this one, I'm just going to use the next. But on the caller field, this is where I should to type in able tutor's name, and I can do this, trigger the next step on change. Short description is the next one. So we'll go ahead and preview this. So we'll begin the tour, incident number. And here we have to type in Abel's name in order to continue through the tours. That's how we do that, and we configure that on the on change on the next step. And we'll notice in the standard UI, when the tour ends, it brings up the help where we can take a tour. Again, we can manually click that, or if there are any help articles that are associated with that particular view, it'll automatically pop that up and show that. Any questions at this point?
Hey man, it's Alec.
Hey.
When the on change happens when you tab out, or what
Yes.
trigger? Okay, cool.
Yeah, it's on the tab out.
Okay, cool. Or just clicking anywhere else, right?
Click out or tab out, yeah. It's very similar to, an on-change client script where that triggers after the field actually has been changed.
Oh, perfect, cool. And then if you don't mind, while you're in there, how do you handle the guided tour if they wanted to do something else? Like if they wanted to go from incident to change, do you actually put the call outs on the app Navigator for them to if the process was a little more complicated than, just filling out the incident form, is it possible to change to another form to show them like a longer process?
It is. I'll show that in a minute on at least the portal view. It's not clean. There are some user experience considerations on it, and I'll show that. Actually, I can show that on the portal right now. I've not tried doing multiple pages on the standard UI, but I've only done it on the portal.
Cool. Yeah,
I can actually show.
We offer this to clients through the training department, and it's usually the significant amount of time we spend is trying to figure out how to get the app Navigator to work with it, or just changing forms. So it'd be cool to see what you do.
Yep. So I've got a multi-page tour showing on the portal here. So I've called out, hey, click here to request something. But if I close the window, the tour ends. So now the user's not actually getting to see what I wanted them to click on, because even once I go ahead and click on request something, since the tour's already ended, it's not going to trigger anything I've got on the second page. And then if I actually do go into the second page, but then for some reason I close it, well, now I'm stuck. I don't have any direction now to get back to what I want the user to do. So I have always tried to avoid multiple pages on a single tour, just because you don't know what the user is going to do. If I follow it perfectly, don't click out of anything, it'll work and continue on the tour. But if I exit out, I might be left as a user, I might be left down whatever rabbit hole my tour took me down, and then no instruction or no anything to get back.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened to us. We had the very beginning of the tour started off with something on the app Navigator, and if they didn't do it exactly right, it ended, which just called it's just a stream of emails to the contact going, this doesn't work. We're like, you got to follow the directions, but you can't. They couldn't do it, and it's not reliable. So thanks, man.
Yeah, I recommend anything that I've done, I've just kept it a single page. So if they do click off of it, they're not lost. They're at least back where they started at.
Yeah, and then so at the end, you would do the single page incident. So we'll just take I need to create a change after the incident. You would just direct them in the last step to say, now if you need to create a change, go to the change.
Yeah, and then you'd have another tour created for change.
All right, cool. That's a good idea. Thanks, man.
Yeah, you're welcome. That's good too. If someone skipped the incident part and they go to change, well, now they've got the tour already created on change. They're not following the tour from incident into change. They could just go directly to change.
Right. That's a good way to present it
might,
to the client. Yeah, that if they say, hey, why isn't this all one thing? Say, we want to make it modular. Okay, cool. Thanks, man.
Yep. This will be the last item I'm going to show, kind of demonstrating what happens when we don't check that skippable option. I am currently logged in as the system administrator and I have an approval. So out of the box, this approval menu option does not show if I don't have any approvals. So if I take the tour and I've called out the approval menu option for some reason, hey, here's approvals. If you click on this, then you can see your approvals. Works fine for me, and it continues on. But if I were to go and impersonate a user that doesn't have an approval, let's use able again. So you notice here, I've also got 3 tours created. So you can create multiple tours on a particular page if you want to show different aspects. So I'm going to click on the approver one again. And we notice that able doesn't have any approval, so that menu option is not showing in the menu. And we can see I must have the skippable checked. It actually skipped trying to show the approval and just went ahead onto the, hey, here you can search. But let me go back and disable that option so you can see what that looks like. Get a red nasty message that says the tour has stopped, and not a very friendly thing for your end users to see.
No, I definitely agree there, because this is sometimes the first time they're seeing ServiceNow, and so
right. And if the first thing they see a red box show up, they're not going to be very happy.
Yeah, the user adoption drops.
Yep. So I'm going to go back into the designer. I'm going to go to the approval, call out. Yep, we can see I had it set as skippable. So if I uncheck that now, so it actually already saved it. You don't have to go and resave or anything like that. It went ahead and saved it. So I'm going to go back and impersonate able. Take the approver tour. But here we get a message, tour ended because the next step was not found. That highlights the importance of checking that checkbox for skippable. And you notice the tour didn't continue, it literally stopped. So the user doesn't even see anything after that fact. So checking that skippable is a very important step in the event that the user doesn't happen to have the area of the platform that you're trying to call out. So that's all I had for the demonstration and showing you how to create guided tours. Anything you want me to repeat or any questions that anyone might have?
Is there a way to change like the color of the pop-ups or like the HTML or anything like that behind the scenes easily?
That's a good question.
Yeah, you can, if you go into the step itself within the guided tour step section. So if you go
in here?
Step, yeah. So if you go into that, yeah. So now you can use the HTML editor.
So you can control some HTML.
And bold it, color.
Oh, cool. That was it.
Yeah, thank you for that.
Thanks, Steve.
All right. Anything else from anybody?
Good stuff.
Thank you. Thanks everyone for joining today.